Hello, you tired little peeps. It's that time once again. So, let's snuggle up fast because tonight we're traveling back in time to walk through the stone corridors of a Roman training school and observe the disciplined, quiet routine of a gladiator's daily existence. So if you are new to the channel or returning, liking the video significantly helps. Also, please let me know where you're listening in from and what time it is for you. Now get comfortable and let's begin. The world is still dark when the first subtle shift in the atmosphere occurs. Here, deep within the belly of the ludus, the concept of morning does not begin with the sun. It begins with the fading of the night's chill and the slow rhythmic breathing of 100 men sleeping in close proximity. You are lying on a simple wooden pallet, a low bed raised just enough off the stone floor to keep the dampness at bay. Beneath you is a mattress stuffed with straw. It has been packed down over months of use, forming a shape that matches the curve of your spine. It is not luxurious, but it is familiar. It smells of dried grass and old wool, a scent that signals rest and safety within these thick walls. The room, or rather the cell, is small. It is a square of space defined by heavy masonry blocks that have been cut and fitted together with Roman precision. There is no window in this cella, only a heavy wooden door that is currently unbarred but closed to keep the warmth inside. In the darkness, your eyes trace the invisible lines of the ceiling. You know every rough patch in the plaster, every slight unevenness in the stone. This small box is your entire world for the night hours. It is a place of solitude in a life that is otherwise entirely public. Outside the heavy door, the faint sounds of the ludus beginning to wake drift through the cracks. It is not a loud awakening. There are no shouting guards or clanging bells at this hour. Instead, there is the scuff of leather sandals on the paved walkway of the courtyard. It is the sound of the servants and the kitchen slaves beginning their tasks before the fighters are roused. They move like ghosts in the pre-dawn gloom, carrying buckets of water and sacks of grain. You can hear the distant, muffled rhythm of a broom sweeping across the stone, clearing away the dust of the previous day. You sit up slowly. The wool blanket that covered you is coarse and heavy, woven from unadored sheep's wool that retains the natural oils. It is warm, and pushing it aside lets the cool air of the cell touch your skin. You swing your legs over the edge of the pallet, and your feet find the floor. The stone is cold, a grounding sensation that pulls you fully into the present moment. You stand and stretch, feeling the stiffness in your shoulders from the previous day's training. The muscles are tight, but they loosen as you move. In the corner of the cell stands a small clay pitcher and a basin. You pour a small amount of water into the basin. The water has been sitting there all night, absorbing the ambient temperature of the room. You splash it onto your face. It is a shock to the senses, a sharp clarity that washes away the lingering fog of sleep. You run wet hands through your hair and over your face, scrubbing away the oil and sweat. There is no mirror here, and no need for one. You know the routine by heart. You reach for your tunic, a simple garment made of undyed linen. It hangs loosely on your frame, allowing for easy movement. You tie a simple rope belt around your waist, securing the fabric. Stepping out of the cell, you enter the gallery that surrounds the central courtyard. The sky above the open square is a deep, bruised purple, transitioning into the pale gray of approaching dawn. The air here is different than in the cell. It is fresh and carries the scent of damp earth and distant smoke from the city's bakeries. Other doors along the gallery are opening. Men are emerging, silent and steady. They nod to one another, a silent acknowledgement of the shared day ahead. There is a brotherhood here, forged not just in combat, but in the shared monotony of this routine. You join the stream of men walking towards the mess hall. The ludus is a self-contained world, a fortress of discipline. The architecture is sturdy and utilitarian, designed to focus the mind and body. As you walk, you pass the practice area. The sand in the arena has been raked smooth, erasing the footprints of yesterday's drills. It looks pristine and calm, a blank canvas waiting for the day's work. The wooden training posts, the palace, stand like silent sentinels in the dim light, their surfaces scarred and worn from countless wooden swords striking them. Entering the mess hall, the smell changes. The cool, crisp air of the courtyard is replaced by the warm, humid aroma of cooking grain. This is the fuel of the Gladiator. The room is long, filled with rows of heavy wooden tables and benches. The wood has been polished smooth by thousands of elbows and hands over the decades. You take a clay bowl from a stack and move towards the large cauldrons where the kitchen staff are serving the morning meal. The ladle dips into the pot and fills your bowl with a thick, steaming porridge. This is the Gladiatoria Sagina. It is not a meal for delicate palates. It is a dense stew made primarily of barley and beans. It is cooked until the grains have burst and the beans have dissolved into a thick paste. As you carry your bowl to a table, you can see the steam rising in gentle curls, vanishing into the rafters of the ceiling. You sit down on the bench. The wood is hard beneath you. Around you, other men are eating. The room is filled with the soft sounds of wooden spoons scraping against clay bowls and the quiet murmurs of conversation. No one speaks loudly. The morning is too new for boisterous noise. The focus is on the food. You take a spoonful. The barley is chewy, with a nutty, earthy flavor. It is heavy in the stomach, a deliberate choice by the doctors and trainers. This diet is designed to build a layer of subcutaneous fat, as well as muscle. It is this layer that will protect your nerves and blood vessels from shallow cuts in the arena. You are eating for survival, not for pleasure. Sometimes, the porridge is enriched with ash. It sounds strange to the uninitiated, but here, it is a known supplement. Wood ash is stirred into the mix to provide calcium, strengthening the bones that will take the impact of shields and falls. You can taste a slight mineral chalkiness in the background of the barley flavor, a reminder that your body is being built like a temple or a fortress. You eat slowly, methodically. Every spoonful is energy. You look around the table at your companions. They come from every corner of the empire. To your left is a man with the pale skin and reddish hair of the north. To your right, a man with the deep, dark complexion of the southern deserts. Here, those distinctions matter less than the shared reality of the spoon and the bowl. You are all part of the same machine. The light in the mess hall grows stronger as the sun finally breaches the horizon outside. Shafts of dust-mote-filled light cut through the high windows, illuminating the steam rising from the bowls. The warmth of the food spreads through your chest, chasing away the last of the morning chill. You finish the last of the porridge, scraping the bowl clean. There is a sense of satisfaction in the fullness. You are ready. The quiet prelude to the day is ending. The calm of the morning meal will soon be replaced by the focus of the training ground. But for now, you sit for a moment longer, breathing in the smell of grain and wood, feeling the solid bench beneath you, existing in this peaceful, heavy moment before the physical labor begins. The transition from the mess hall to the training grounds is a gradual shift in energy. You leave the lingering warmth of the kitchen fires and step back out into the open courtyard. The sun has climbed higher now. It has burned off the gray mist of dawn, revealing a sky of piercing, cloudless blue. The light strikes the white stone columns of the peristyle, casting long, sharp shadows that stretch across the sand. The air is warming up, losing the crispness of the night and taking on the dry, dusty quality of a Roman day. Before the physical exertion begins, there is a ritual of preparation. You move to a designated area beneath the shaded colonnade where the unctors, the anointers, are waiting. Large clay jars stand in rows filled with olive oil. This is not the refined, clear oil used for the tables of the wealthy. It is thick, green gold, and smells intensely of crushed fruit and earth. You strip off your tunic, folding it neatly and placing it on a bench. The air feels cooler against your skin now that you are exposed, but that sensation is fleeting. You scoop a handful of the oil from a jar. It is cool to the touch, viscous and heavy. You begin to rub it into your skin. You start with your arms, working the oil into the muscles of the shoulders and the forearms. The motion is repetitive and soothing. You can feel the tension in the muscles, the tight knots left over from yesterday's drills. The oil provides a slip, allowing you to massage deep into the tissue. It warms as it spreads, creating a glistening layer over your body. This layer serves a purpose beyond simple massage. It is a barrier against the sun, against the dirt, and against the friction of the equipment you will soon be wearing. The unctors move among the men, assisting with the hard-to-reach places on the back and shoulders. Their hands are strong and practiced. They do not speak much. There is no need for idle chatter. They know the anatomy of a fighter, knowing exactly where the stress accumulates after a day of shield work or sword drills. You feel strong thumbs pressing into the muscles along your spine, working out a stiffness you hadn't realized was there. It is a moment of passive care in a life defined by active aggression. For these few minutes, you are simply a body being tended to, a machine being oiled and calibrated for operation. Once the oiling is complete, the smell of the olive groves clings to you. It is a scent that will define the rest of your day, eventually mixing with sweat and dust to create the unique olfactory signature of the ludus. You stand up, your skin gleaming in the morning light. You feel loose, limber, and protected. You walk out onto the sand. The arena floor is a vast rectangle of yellow-brown grit. It is deep and soft, designed to cushion falls and provide a challenging surface for footwork. Your bare feet sink slightly with each step, the grains of sand pressing between your toes. It creates a slight drag, forcing you to engage your calves and thighs just to walk. This is intentional. Every aspect of this environment is engineered to build strength. The doctor, or medicus, stands at the edge of the training area. He watches the men as they assemble. He is not looking for illness today, but for function. He observes the way you walk, the way you carry your weight. He is protecting an investment. He nods as you pass, a silent confirmation that you are fit for the day's labor. You approach the weapon racks. They are simple wooden structures holding the tools of your trade, but you do not reach for a steel gladius or a sharp trident. Not yet. For training, you use the rudis. It is a wooden sword, carved from dense, heavy oak or ash. It looks like the real thing, but it is significantly heavier. Lead weights have been inserted into the core of the wood. When you wrap your hand around the hilt, the weight pulls your arm down. It requires a deliberate engagement of the forearm and shoulder just to hold it level. The logic is simple and brutal. If you can fight for hours with a weapon that is twice the weight of a real sword, Then on the day of the games, the steel blade will feel as light as a feather in your hand. You also pick up a shield. Like the sword, it is made of wicker, tightly woven and sturdy. It lacks the metal rim and boss of the combat shield, but it retains the size and the awkward bulk. You slide your left arm through the strap and grip the handle. The weight settles onto your shoulder, a familiar burden. It pulls your center of gravity forward and to the left. You adjust your stance instinctively, widening your feet and bending your knees to compensate. The training floor is dominated by the poly. These are heavy wooden posts, taller than a man, sunk deep into the earth. They are the silent enemies, the unmoving opponents that you will face for hours. You find your post. The wood is scarred and splintered from thousands of previous strikes. It stands steady and impassive. You take your position in front of it. The drill begins not with a shout, but with a collective exhalation. You step into the guard position, shield up, protecting the chin and the chest, sword arm tucked close to the body, ready to thrust. You are not swinging wildly. This is not a brawl. It is geometry. It is physics. You lunge. Your back foot drives into the sand, propelling you forward. You extend the heavy wooden sword, aiming for a specific mark on the post. The tip connects with a dull, solid thud that vibrates up your arm. It is a sound devoid of resonance, just a flat impact of wood on wood. Immediately, you recover. You pull the sword back, bring the shield around, and return to your defensive stance. You check your feet. Are they too close together? Is your weight too far forward? You adjust. You breathe in through your nose, a controlled intake of air. You breathe out. You strike again. This time, you aim lower, imagining a strike to the leg. You drop your hips, keeping your back straight. The shield stays high, covering your head from an imaginary counterattack. The wooden sword strikes the lower section of the post. Thud. You recover, back to the start. The repetition is hypnotic. There is no crowd cheering here. There is no adrenaline of fear. There is only the drill. Strike, recover, reset, strike, recover, reset. The movements are performed at half speed at first, focusing on perfect form. The lanista, the trainer, walks among the posts. He carries a long staff. He does not shout often. He simply taps a leg that is too straight, or nudges an elbow that has drifted too far from the ribs. He is a sculptor, and you are the clay. He is molding your reflexes until the correct movement becomes the only movement you know. As the morning progresses, the sun beats down on the open courtyard. The heat begins to rise from the sand. You can feel the sweat starting to bead on your forehead. It runs down your face, stinging your eyes slightly, but you do not wipe it away. You cannot drop your guard. The sweat mixes with the oil on your chest and arms, creating a slick sheen. The dust from the sand kicks up with every lunge, coating your legs and feet in a fine, powdery layer. The soundscape of the training ground is a drone of physical labor. It is a rhythmic composition of heavy breathing, the scuffing of feet dragging through deep sand, and the endless, irregular percussion of wooden swords hitting wooden posts. It is a wall of sound that becomes white noise. You stop hearing the individual impacts and start to feel the rhythm of the room. It is a collective heartbeat of exertion. Your shoulder begins to burn. The heavy wooden sword feels heavier with each repetition. The muscles in your forearm scream for rest. But you do not stop. You push through the discomfort. You learn to find a momentary rest in the split second of the recovery stance. You learn to use the momentum of your hips to drive the sword, saving the strength in your arm. You are learning efficiency. You are learning how to make a finite amount of energy last for an indefinite amount of time. You practice the thrust. The Romans know that a cut can heal, but a thrust is deadly. So you drill the stabbing motion over and over. You aim for the invisible gaps in the armor, the neck, the armpit, the groin. The post takes every blow without complaint. It offers no resistance, but also no forgiveness. If your angle is wrong, the sword glances off awkwardly. If your grip is loose, the impact jars your wrist. The post tells you exactly what you are doing wrong, simply by being solid. Time seems to dissolve in the repetition. There is no past and no future. There is only the next thrust. The world narrows down to the distance between your eyes and the grain of the wood on the post. You watch the dust motes dancing in the shaft of sunlight between you and your target. You focus on your breath, keeping it steady and deep, syncing it with your movement. Inhale on the recover, exhale on the strike. It becomes a meditation. The mind empties of worry, of fear, of memory. There is only the body, the wood, and the sand. Occasionally, a signal is given to switch. You move from the post to shadow fighting. You face an imaginary opponent in the open sand. You practice advancing and retreating. You step forward, dragging the rear foot to maintain your base. You step back, keeping your shield locked in place. You circle left, then right. You visualize an opponent's spear, an opponent's sword. You duck under a phantom swing. You block a ghost blow. To an observer on the roof, it would look like a dance of madmen fighting the air. But to you, the opponent is real. You can see the shift in their weight, the twitch of their shoulder. The heat intensifies as the sun reaches its zenith. The shadows under the colonnade have shrunk to nothing. The sand is hot now, radiating warmth up through the soles of your feet. Your body is fully awake, fully engaged. The stiffness of the morning is a distant memory, replaced by a fluid, hot mobility. You are tired, yes. Your limbs feel heavy, draped in the invisible weight of fatigue. But it is a good tiredness. It is the feeling of the body doing exactly what it was designed to do. You are a creature of action, and for these hours, you are fulfilling your purpose completely. The world outside the walls, the politics, the emperors, the debts, the crowds, does not exist. There is only the discipline of the sand. The sun hangs directly overhead now, a blinding white disk that bleaches the color from the surrounding stone. The shadows have vanished completely, leaving the courtyard exposed and baking in the heat. A signal ripples through the training ground. It is not a spoken command, but a subtle shift in the rhythm of the Lanista's staff tapping against the ground. The constant thudding of wood against wood ceases. The collective exertion halts. It is time for the midday break. You lower the heavy wooden sword. The relief is instantaneous. Your arm feels incredibly light, almost floating, as the artificial weight of the lead-filled timber is removed. You roll your shoulders, feeling the blood rushing back into muscles that have been contracted for hours. There is a collective sound of exhaling, a release of breath held by 50 men simultaneously. You walk over to the rack and hang the shield on its peg. It slides from your sweaty arm with a wet friction. You move to the water troughs. The water here is not for bathing, but for cooling the blood. You cup your hands and splash the liquid over your head and neck. It is lukewarm from the ambient temperature, but it feels freezing against your overheated skin. It runs down your back in rivulets, cutting through the layer of dust and oil. You drink from a ladle, the water tasting faintly of the clay piping it traveled through. You do not gulp, but sip slowly, letting the hydration settle into your system without shocking your stomach. The meal, the prandium, is lighter than the morning porridge. You sit in the shaded colonnade, away from the direct assault of the sun. The food is simple. There is coarse bread, baked hard to last. There are dried figs, their sweetness concentrated and chewy. There is a small portion of salted fish, dry and pungent, providing the salt you have lost through sweat. You eat in silence or speak in low tones. The adrenaline of the morning has faded, replaced by a heavy, languid fatigue. The heat of the Roman afternoon induces a natural drowsiness. For the next hour, the ludus sleeps. This is the meridiatio, the midday rest. You find a patch of shade on the stone floor of the gallery. The stone is cool here, sheltered from the sun. You lie down, using your arm as a pillow. The world slows down. The only sounds are the buzzing of flies near the kitchen and the distant, rhythmic chirping of cicadas in the cypress trees outside the walls. You close your eyes. You do not sleep deeply, but drift in a state of suspended awareness. Your body repairs itself in these quiet moments. The micro tears in your muscles begin to knit. The heart rate slows. It is a necessary pause, a biological requirement for the work that is still to come. As the sun begins its slow descent, shifting the shadows to the other side of the courtyard, the rest period ends. The transition back to wakefulness is groggy and slow. Men stretch on the floor, groaning quietly as stiff limbs are asked to move again. You stand up and shake the lethargy from your legs. The afternoon session is different. The morning was for conditioning and strength against the unmoving post. The afternoon is for technique and strategy against a living opponent. You return to the training ground. This time, you pair off. Your partner is a man you know well. You have fought him 1,000 times in this sand. You know he favors his right side. You know he drops his shield slightly when he is tired. He knows your habits too. He knows you like to feint high and strike low. This familiarity breeds a complex game of chess played with bodies. You pick up the wooden weapons again. They feel familiar now, an extension of your arm. You face your partner. There is no anger in his eyes, only a focused calculation. You tap swords, a salute, a signal that the dance has begun. You circle each other. The sand shuffles beneath your feet. You are watching his shoulders. The shoulder always betrays the strike before the arm moves. He twitches. You react. You step back, raising your shield just enough to catch the blow of his wooden sword. The impact jars your arm, but you hold firm. You counter immediately, stepping into his guard. You thrust towards his midsection. He twists his body, the wooden blade sliding harmlessly past his ribs. This is the armatura. It is the art of fighting. It is not just about hitting hard. It is about moving correctly. The doctor, the lead trainer, walks between the pairs. He stops to watch you. He does not look at where the swords are hitting. He looks at your feet. Balance is everything. If you cannot stand, you cannot fight. He taps your heel with his staff. You adjust your stance, widening your base. He nods and moves on. The pacing of the afternoon is different. It is stop and start. You fight for a few minutes, high intensity, breathless exertion. Then you stop to discuss the exchange. Your partner points to his chest. You left yourself open, he says quietly. You nod. You try it again. You recreate the scenario. This time, you keep your elbow tucked in. You deflect his strike and land your own. It is a collaborative learning process. You are sharpening each other. Iron sharpens iron, they say. But here, wood sharpens men. The sun lowers further, bathing the courtyard in a golden, hazy light. The heat is less intense now, but the air is thick with dust kicked up by 50 pairs of feet. The smell of sweat is pungent and heavy. You are covered in a paste of oil, dust, and perspiration. It coats your hair, your eyelashes, your skin. You feel gritty and raw. You practice disarming techniques. You practice fighting with a disadvantage, one hand behind your back or kneeling in the sand. You practice fighting against different weapons. Your partner puts down the sword and picks up a spear and a small round shield. Now the range has changed. You have to get inside his reach. You have to be patient. You circle, waiting for the spear to thrust. When it comes, you have to be faster than thought. You deflect, step in, and close the distance. It is a puzzle of geometry and timing. There is a strange intimacy in this violence. You trust your partner not to injure you, even as he swings a heavy club at your head. He trusts you to block it. It requires a level of communication that goes beyond words. You are reading the tension in his neck, the intake of his breath. You are completely present in the moment. There is no room for wandering thoughts. If your mind drifts to your dinner or your debts, you will be hit. The pain of a wooden sword on the ribs is a sharp, immediate teacher. As the afternoon wears on, the shadows lengthen, stretching across the entire arena floor. The golden light turns to amber. The energy in the ludus changes again. The intensity begins to taper off. The drills become slower, focusing on cooling down the body. You move through the forms one last time, fluid and relaxed. You are no longer fighting the resistance of the weight. You are moving with it. Finally, the signal comes to halt. The training day is done. The silence rushes back into the courtyard, filling the space left by the clatter of wood. You drop your hands to your sides. Your chest heaves, pulling in the cooling evening air. You look at your partner, a nod of respect, a hand on the shoulder. You have survived another day of the grind. You are stronger today than you were yesterday. You walk back to the weapon racks. You place the wooden sword in its slot. You hang the wicker shield. You feel an immense sense of lightness. The burden of the day is physically lifted from you. Your body aches, a dull, throbbing reminder of the work. But it is a satisfied ache. It is the feeling of a structure that has been tested and found solid. You move towards the edge of the courtyard, where the strigils and the baths await. The work is done, but the ritual of the evening is just beginning. The transition from warrior back to human has started. You walk slowly, feeling the cooling stone under your feet, watching the first stars begin to appear in the darkening sky above the open roof of the ludus. The day's fury has ended and the evening's peace is approaching. You step into the bathhouse complex attached to the barracks. The air here is thick and opaque, hanging heavy with steam that smells of sulfur and heated stone. It is a different kind of heat than the dry, searing burn of the sun in the arena. This is a wet, enveloping warmth that seems to seep through the pores and into the very marrow of your bones. The noise of the outside world is dampened here, replaced by the echoing sounds of water splashing and the low murmur of voices bouncing off the vaulted ceilings. First, you must remove the day. You stand by a stone bench and reach for the strigil. It is a curved metal tool made of bronze with a handle worn smooth by use. Your skin is coated in a thick gray paste. The mixture of the olive oil you applied at dawn, the dust of the arena floor, and the dried sweat of your labor. It is a second skin, a testament to the hours you have just survived. You press the curved edge of the strigil against your forearm and scrape firmly. The metal glides over the muscle, peeling away the grime in long, dark ribbons. You flick the waste onto the floor, where it will be collected by slaves. This substance, this gloios, is considered valuable. It will be sold to chemists and doctors, believed to contain the vitality and strength of the gladiator. It is a strange thought that the refuse of your body is a prize for those living softly in the city, but you do not dwell on it. You simply scrape. You work methodically down your body, the chest, the thighs, the calves. You help the man next to you with his back, and he does the same for you. It is the same functional intimacy as the training ground, but here the purpose is restoration rather than preparation. When the layer of grime is gone, you move into the tepidarium, the warm room. You sit on a marble bench, letting your body adjust. The heat here is gentle. You feel your heart rate slowing further, the blood vessels dilating, carrying oxygen to the tired tissues. From there, you move to the calidarium, the hot room. The floor is hot beneath your feet, heated by the hippocaust fires burning beneath the ground. You sink into a pool of hot water. The sensation is intense. For a moment, it stings the small scrapes and abrasions on your skin, but then the pain fades into a deep, throbbing relief. You close your eyes and lean your head back against the rim of the pool. You float. In the water, you are weightless. The gravity that pulled at the heavy wooden sword and the wicker shield no longer exists. You are just flesh and breath suspended in warmth. After the baths, there is a visit to the medicus for those who need it. The doctor's room smells of vinegar, honey, and crushed herbs. It is a sharp, medicinal scent that cuts through the humidity of the bathhouse. You have a bruise on your ribs from a lucky strike during the shadow fighting. The doctor presses it with cold fingers. He nods, dismissing it as trivial. He applies a salve made of arnica and binds it with a strip of linen. He is efficient and unsentimental. To him, you are a piece of expensive machinery that requires maintenance. He checks the eyes of a man who took a blow to the head. He checks the feet of another for blisters. He is the mechanic of the ludus, keeping the engines running. Clean and treated, you return to the mess hall for the cena, the evening meal. The room is darker now. The high windows show a sky that has deepened to a rich indigo. Oil lamps have been lit, placed at intervals along the long tables. They cast flickering, dancing shadows against the stone walls, making the room feel smaller, more enclosed. The atmosphere is different than breakfast. The tension of the upcoming training is gone. There is a sense of release. The volume of conversation is higher, though still disciplined. The food is brought out. It is more substantial than the morning porridge. There are platters of roasted vegetables, leeks, onions, and cabbages seasoned with garum, the fermented fish sauce that is the flavor of Rome. There is bread, round loaves that are dense and dark, and there is meat. Not every day, but often enough to keep the strength up. Tonight, it is boiled pork, simple and hearty. You tear a piece of bread and dip it into the juices on the platter. The taste is savory and rich. You eat with a hunger that feels bottomless. Your body is screaming for fuel to repair the damage of the day. You drink pasca, a mixture of water and sour wine or vinegar. It is refreshing and thirst-quenching, cutting through the richness of the meat. It is the drink of soldiers and gladiators, a humble beverage that keeps the mind clear. You do not drink heavy wine here. A drunk gladiator is a dead gladiator. Sobriety is a survival trait. As the meal winds down, the men linger at the tables. This is the only free time you have. A few men produce a set of dice, carved from bone or antler. They clear a space on the table. They do not play for money. You have little use for coins in here, but for favors, for extra rations, or simply for the thrill of the chance. You watch the small cubes tumble across the scarred wood. The outcome is out of their hands, dictated by Fortuna. It is a small microcosm of your life. You train, you prepare, but in the end, luck always plays a part. In the corner, a veteran, a Primus Pallas, is telling a story. He speaks of a fight in the great amphitheater in the south, of a particular opponent who fought with a net and trident. The younger men, the novices, listen with rapt attention. They are soaking up the wisdom, trying to learn the lessons that kept this man alive long enough to have gray in his beard. You listen too, picking apart the details of the story. You visualize the moves he describes. You are learning even when you are resting. Other men sit in solitude, mending their tunics or carving small figures out of wood scraps. There is a man writing a letter on a wax tablet, perhaps to a family he hasn't seen in years, or a lover in the city. The stylus scratches into the wax, a quiet mark of humanity in a place designed for dehumanization. You observe them all. These are your brothers, your rivals, and potentially your executioners. It is a complex web of relationships, bound by the specific, strange honor of the arena. You respect them because they endure what you endure. The lamps begin to burn low, the oil consuming itself. The shadows lengthen and merge, swallowing the corners of the room. The air grows cooler as the stone walls radiate the day's heat back out into the night. A guard steps into the doorway. He does not need to shout. His presence is the signal. The day is officially over. You stand up, your legs feeling heavy and stiff as the adrenaline completely leaves your system. You move with the herd of men back towards the cells. The courtyard is silent now, bathed in the silver light of the moon. The training posts stand like ghosts in the darkness, waiting for the dawn. The sand looks like a calm sea, rippled only by the wind. You reach your cell. It is dark inside, the only light coming from the torch in the hallway. You step in. The space is exactly as you left it, but it feels more welcoming now. It is a sanctuary. You untie your belt and remove your tunic, folding it in the dark. You are naked again, just as you were when you entered the bath, just as you will be when you enter the arena. You sit on the edge of the pallet. The straw mattress rustles beneath you. You take a moment to inspect your hands in the dim light. The calluses on your palms are hard and yellow, thick pads of skin built up from gripping the wooden sword. They are your armor. You rub your thumb over the rough skin. You feel the soreness in your shoulder, the tightness in your calves. These are the sensations of life. You are alive. You have survived another rotation of the sun. You lie down. The wool blanket is rough against your skin, but it holds the warmth. You pull it up to your chin. You stare up at the ceiling, at the heavy stones that form the roof. The sounds of the barracks settle down. The murmurs fade. The shuffling stops. The only sound left is the breathing of the men in the cells around you, a slow, collective rhythm of sleep. You close your eyes. Your mind does not wander far. It does not dream of freedom or of riches. It stays here, within these walls. You replay the day's training. You see the wooden sword coming towards you. You see the opening in your partner's guard. You correct your mistakes in your mind. You visualize the perfect strike. Even in sleep, you are a gladiator. You drift off, carried away by the exhaustion, sinking into the dark, dreamless void that separates one day of struggle from the next. The depth of the night brings a silence that is almost physical in its weight. It presses against the stone walls of the cell, filling the spaces between the heavy masonry blocks. You are asleep, but it is the light, vigilant sleep of a man who lives by his reflexes. Somewhere in the labyrinth of the city beyond the walls, a dog barks, a lonely, rhythmic sound that carries over the rooftops. Your eyes open. There is no startle, no sudden intake of breath. You simply transition from the dark landscape of a dream to the dark landscape of your reality. The moon has moved. A single, sharp beam of silver light cuts through the high, barred window of the cella. It falls across the stone floor like a spilled line of mercury, illuminating the dust motes that hang suspended in the still air. You lie perfectly still, watching the dust dance in the slow current of the night. The air has grown colder. The heat of the day, which seemed trapped in the stones earlier, has finally radiated away, leaving a damp chill that creeps under the wool blanket. You pull the rough fabric tighter around your shoulders, creating a cocoon of warmth. You listen. The ludus is a living thing, even in its slumber. You can hear the settling of the building, the groan of timber beams contracting as they cool, the whisper of wind moving through the open courtyard outside your door. Nearby, a fellow gladiator shifts on his pallet, the straw mattress rustling like dry autumn leaves. Another man mutters something unintelligible in his sleep, a fragment of a conversation with a ghost or a memory. These sounds do not disturb you. They are the heartbeat of your existence, the proof that you are not alone in this stone box. You shift your weight, easing the pressure on your hip. The soreness in your muscles has transformed into a dull, throbbing stiffness. It is a familiar companion. You trace the map of your body with your mind. The ache in the right shoulder from the shield drills, the tightness in the calves from the deep sand, the sting of the scraped skin on your forearm. These are not injuries to be lamented. They are the receipts of your labor. They tell you that you worked hard, that you pushed the limits of the flesh. In this quiet hour, there is a strange pride in that pain. It validates your survival. You stare at the stone ceiling, barely visible in the gloom. In the darkness, the walls seem to dissolve. Your mind drifts beyond the cell, floating out into the city of Rome. You imagine the streets empty of the crushing crowds. You imagine the forum, silent and white under the moonlight, the statues of emperors and gods watching over the sleeping capital. You imagine the great amphitheater, the Colosseum, standing vast and hollow, its tiered seats empty, the sand of the arena smooth and undisturbed. It is waiting for you. It is always waiting. But tonight, it is just stone and sand, devoid of blood and noise. A heavy footstep echoes in the corridor outside. It is slow, rhythmic, the sound of hobnailed sandals on stone. The night guard. He is making his rounds, checking the bars, ensuring the assets of the lanista are secure. The sound grows louder, passing your door, and then fades away down the gallery. You are not a prisoner in the traditional sense, but you are not free. You are bound by an oath, the sacramentum gladiatorium. You have given your body and your life to the ludus. In exchange, you are fed, you are trained, and you are given a chance at glory, however fleeting. In the silence of the night, the terms of this contract feel absolute. There is no ambiguity here. Your life is simple because it has a singular purpose. You close your eyes again, letting the darkness wash over you. The mind, unburdened by the immediate need for focus, begins to wander through the archives of memory. You remember the land of your birth, perhaps the green forests of the north or the arid plains of the south. The images are soft, blurred at the edges by time. You remember the taste of a different kind of bread, the sound of a different language. These memories do not bring sadness, only a quiet, grounding sense of history. You are a man with a past. even if your future is decided by the thumb of a crowd. The silence deepens. It is the dead hour, the time between the last revelries of the night and the first stirrings of the bakers and farmers. The world feels paused. In this void, you find a deep, meditative peace. The anxiety of the fight, the fear of death, the noise of the school, none of it exists right now. There is only the rhythm of your own breath. Inhale, exhale. The air is cool and clean in your lungs. You are safe here. For these few hours, you belong only to yourself. You feel the heaviness of sleep pulling at you again. It starts in the limbs, a sensation of sinking into the mattress, of the body becoming as heavy as the stone floor. Thoughts become fragmented, losing their linear structure. The image of the training post blends with the image of a tree from your childhood. The face of your training partner blends with the face of a brother. The logic of the waking world dissolves into the abstract fluidity of the dream world. You drift. The sensation is like floating in the calm waters of the bath, supported, weightless, warm. The tension in your jaw releases. The furrow in your brow smooths out. The gladiator armor is stripped away, leaving just the man. You are resting. You are healing. The body is performing its miraculous work of repair, stitching together the micro tears, replenishing the energy stores, preparing you to rise again. Outside, the moon continues its slow arc across the sky, eventually dipping below the horizon. The silver beam of light in your cell fades, returning the room to absolute darkness. The air shifts again, becoming slightly stiller, if that were possible. It is the deepest part of the night, the trough of the wave before the dawn begins to rise. Soon the birds will begin to sing in the cypress trees. Soon the gray light of pre-dawn will wash the sky in the east. Soon the servants will wake, the brooms will sweep the stones, and the fires in the kitchen will be stoked. The smell of wood smoke and boiling grain will once again drift through the corridors. The cycle will repeat. You will rise. You will wrap the belt around your tunic. You will step out into the cool morning air and walk to the mess hall. You will pick up the wooden sword. You will stand before the post. But not yet. That time is not now. Now, there is only the dark. Now, there is only the quiet. Now, there is only the well-earned oblivion of rest. You surrender to it completely, letting the tide of sleep carry you away from the ludus, away from Rome, away from the sand. You sleep the sleep of the just and the tired. You sleep. And in the silence of the stone, you find your peace, back in time to wander the dimly lit streets of the Subura and observe the slow, heavy wheels of Roman justice turning against the crime of theft. The sun has long since dipped behind the Janiculum hill, leaving the city of Rome wrapped in a cloak of twilight that is slowly deepening into true night. The marble facades of the great temples in the Forum, usually so brilliant and white under the midday sun, are now gray and imposing silhouettes against a darkening sky. Here, in the heart of the empire, night does not bring total silence, but rather a shift in the rhythm of existence. The heavy carts, banned from the streets during the daylight hours to prevent congestion, now begin their lumbering procession. The rumble of their wooden wheels on the basalt paving stones provides a low, continuous bass note to the symphony of the evening. You are walking through the Subura, the crowded, chaotic, lower-class district nestled in the valley between the hills. The air here is thick and complex. It carries the lingering scent of garum from the evening meals, the sharp tang of wood smoke drifting from the upper stories of the insulae, and the damp, earthy smell of the unpaved alleyways. The buildings rise up on either side of you like man-made cliffs, rickety wooden tenements that seem to lean towards each other, blocking out the stars. Tonight, the focus of our journey is not on the grand speeches of the Senate or the glory of the legions, but on a smaller, more intimate aspect of Roman life, the concept of property and the consequences of violating it. In a society built on order and hierarchy, theft, or furtum as it is known in the law, is not just a crime against a person, it is a disruption of the social fabric. Imagine you are standing near a market stall that is closing down for the night. The shopkeeper, a weary man with flour on his tunic, is packing away his goods. There are loaves of bread, hard and round, stacked in baskets. There are small clay lamps, their wicks trimmed and ready for sale. The shopkeeper turns his back for a moment to secure a shutter. In that fleeting second, a hand reaches out from the shadows. It is not a dramatic gesture. It is quick, silent, and desperate. The hand closes around a loaf of bread or perhaps a small silver denarius left on the counter. This is the moment where the intricate machinery of Roman law begins to hum into life. In the ancient code of the 12 Tables, the foundation of all Roman justice, the severity of the theft depends entirely on this specific moment. If the thief is caught in the act, red-handed, it is known as furtum manifestum. This is a critical distinction. To be seen, to be seized while the stolen good is still in your hand, changes the nature of the reality you are about to face. You watch as the shopkeeper turns. His eyes catch the movement. He shouts. It is not a scream of terror, but a shout of indignation, a call to the community. In the tight-knit world of the Subura, privacy is a luxury no one can afford. The shout draws attention. Neighbors lean out of windows. Passers-by stop. The thief is surrounded not by police in the modern sense, but by the citizens themselves. Rome is a city where the people police each other. However, the state is present too. Emerging from the gloom at the end of the street is a patrol of the vigils. These are the night watchmen of Rome, a paramilitary force tasked with fighting fires and keeping the peace. They move with a disciplined, heavy gait. They carry buckets woven from rope and sealed with pitch, and they carry torches. The light from the torches flickers wildly, casting long, dancing shadows that stretch and warp across the walls of the tenements. The flame illuminates their helmets and the simple, sturdy armor they wear. The vigils approach the commotion. They do not run. They represent the inevitability of order. They step into the circle of people. The thief is held fast, perhaps by the shopkeeper, perhaps by a burly neighbor. The stolen object is displayed. It is physical evidence, the corpus delicti. The vigiles take custody of the situation. There is no reading of rights, no gentle reassurance. Hands are bound with rough hemp rope. The knot is tied tight, biting into the skin, a tactile reminder that your freedom has been suspended. You follow them as they begin the walk. They are not taking the thief to a massive central prison, for Rome has few of those. Instead, they are heading towards the local station of the cohort, a watch house tucked away in the district. The walk is slow. The torchlight bobs ahead, carving a tunnel of visibility through the darkness. The sounds of the city seem to recede, replaced by the rhythmic crunch of sandals on stone and the heavy breathing of the captive. As you walk, you observe the architecture of control. The streets are designed to channel movement. The high walls of the insulae act as barriers. There is nowhere to run. The thief is being moved from the world of the free, the world of commerce and movement, into the world of the bound. You can feel the weight of the atmosphere shifting. The anxiety of the act has passed, replaced by a dull, heavy dread of what is to come. The concept of theft in Rome goes beyond the simple loss of an item. It is viewed as a violation of trust and a breach of the peace. The law distinguishes carefully between a thief who sneaks in by night and one who steals by day. The night thief is considered more dangerous, more treacherous. The darkness is seen as an accomplice. If you steal by night, the 12 tables suggest a harsh vulnerability. In the ancient days, a night thief could be killed on the spot if they resisted. While the empire has civilized this somewhat, the shadow of that ancient severity still hangs over the proceedings. You arrive at the watch house. It is a sturdy building, squat and functional. The door is heavy oak, reinforced with iron bands. It swings open with a groan of timber hinges. Inside, the air is cooler and smells of stale wine and unwashed bodies. There is a simple holding cell here, a room with stone walls and a floor covered in damp straw. The thief is pushed inside. The rope is checked one last time. The door is closed and barred. You stand outside the cell for a moment. The excitement of the street has faded. Now, there is only the waiting. Roman justice is not always swift, but it is thorough. The night will be long for the person inside that cell. They are now waiting for the dawn, and with it, the arrival of the magistrate. The act of theft has been committed, the capture has been made, and now the legal ritual must play out. You take a step back, leaning against the rough stone wall of the watch house. You look up at the slice of sky visible between the rooftops. The stars are indifferent, cold points of light that have looked down on this same scene for centuries. The noise of the carts continues in the distance, a reminder that the city's metabolism never truly stops. But here, in the shadow of the law, time seems to thicken and slow down. You settle in to wait, to observe the transition from the chaos of the crime to the structured rigidity of the judgment. The night is still young, and the process has only just begun. The night dissolves slowly, replaced by the gray, diffuse light of dawn that seeps through the cracks in the heavy wooden door of the watch house. The air inside the holding cell has grown stale and still. The thief, huddled in the corner on the damp straw, looks up as the bolts are drawn back. The metal slides against metal with a dull, heavy friction that resonates in the small space. The door swings open, revealing the silhouette of the guard against the brightening sky. It is time to move. You follow the small procession as it leaves the station. The destination is the Forum, the beating heart of Rome's legal and civic life. The city is waking up around you. Shopkeepers are unlading their shutters, the wood clattering against the stone walls. Slaves are hurrying towards the public fountains, with empty amphorae balanced on their shoulders. The air is cool and carries the scent of fresh bread from the bakeries, a sharp contrast to the grim reality of the prisoner walking with bound hands. You arrive at the edge of the Forum Romanum. Even at this early hour, the space is beginning to fill. But you are not heading for the open-air rostra, where politicians shout to the crowds. You are heading towards one of the great basilicas, perhaps the Basilica Julia. It is a massive structure, a forest of marble columns supporting a high, coffered ceiling. As you step inside from the bright morning sunlight, the light changes. It becomes soft, filtered, and golden. The air here is cooler, trapped between the thick stone walls. The basilica is a cavern of echoes. It is not a place of silence, but a place of murmurs. Scores of conversations float up into the vaulted ceiling, merchants discussing prices, bankers calculating interest, and lawyers debating statutes. You walk across the floor. The marble is smooth and cold beneath your feet, polished by generations of sandals. The sound of your footsteps is lost in the ambient drone of the vast hall. The tribunal is set up at the far end of the nave. It is a raised platform, separating the judge from the judged. Seated there is the magistrate, perhaps a praetor or an aedile, depending on the specific nature of the jurisdiction. He sits on the sella curulis, the ivory folding chair that is the ancient symbol of his authority. He wears the toga praetexta, the white wool bordered with a stripe of purple. He looks bored, or perhaps just weary. To him, this is not a tragedy. It is paperwork. It is a Tuesday morning in the administration of an empire. The thief is brought forward. The accuser, the shopkeeper from the Subura, stands nearby. He looks smaller here, dwarfed by the grandeur of the architecture. He clutches the recovered item, the loaf of bread or the silver coin, as if it were a talisman. The legal procedure begins. It is not a shouting match. In Roman law, especially for cases of theft, the process is formulaic and precise. It is a civil procedure, a dispute between two citizens, overseen by the state. You listen to the voices. They speak in Latin, of course, but it is a specific kind of Latin. It is dry, rhythmic, and dense. It is the language of statutes and clauses. The magistrate asks if the theft was manifest, caught in the act, or non-manifest. This distinction is the pivot point of the entire trial. Since the thief was seized in the shadows of the stall, held by the shopkeeper until the vigils arrived, it is declared furtum manifestum. The scribe, sitting at a lower table, records the details. You watch his hand move across the wax tablet. The stylus digs into the soft surface, carving out the fate of the man standing before the platform. The sound is a faint, scratching whisper, barely audible over the hum of the basilica. This recording is vital. Rome runs on records. Every crime, every debt, every judgment must be catalogued. The penalty is announced. It is severe, but it is calculated. For a free man caught in the act of theft, the law of the 12 tables was once incredibly brutal, involving physical scourging and then being addicted, handed over, to the victim as a bondservant. Over the centuries, the praetors have softened this, often converting the physical punishment into a crushing financial one. The thief is ordered to pay 4 times the value of what was stolen. This is the quadruplum. You watch the thief's face. He knows, and the shopkeeper knows, that he does not have the money. He cannot pay 4 times the value of a loaf of bread, let alone a silver coin. He has nothing. This is where the true weight of the Roman system settles in. Because he cannot pay, the financial debt transforms back into a physical one. The judgment is rendered. He will work off the debt. He is to be handed over to the victim, not as a slave in the full legal sense initially, but as a bondsman. His labor now belongs to the man he tried to rob. The magistrate waves a hand. The case is dismissed. The next petitioner is already stepping forward. The machine does not stop. The thief is led away, this time not by the vigils, but by the shopkeeper and perhaps a hired guard. The dynamic has shifted. They are no longer just accuser and accused. They are now master and servant. You watch them leave the cool shade of the basilica and step back out into the harsh, bright glare of the forum. The dust of the city swirls around their ankles. The noise of the crowd swallows them up. It is a quiet tragedy, devoid of grand executioners or blood-soaked sand. It is the tragedy of bureaucracy, of a life being recalculated and reassigned in a ledger. You remain in the basilica for a moment longer. The atmosphere is heavy with the scent of old paper, wax, and the dry, dusty smell of the stone itself. You lean against a column, feeling the cold marble press into your back. You watch the dust motes dancing in the shafts of light that pierce the upper windows. The drone of the next case begins. Another name, another crime, another judgment. It is a hypnotic, endless cycle. The law is a wheel that keeps turning, grinding down the irregularities of the city, attempting to impose a straight line of order onto the chaotic curve of human nature. You push yourself off the column and begin to walk towards the exit. The trial is over, but the journey of punishment is only just beginning. For the man who stole, the cell was just a waiting room. The true sentence will be lived out in the days and months to come, in the sweat of labor and the loss of autonomy. You step out into the sun, squinting against the light, ready to follow the path of the condemned, further into the hidden workings of the Roman world. The sun is now high above the rooftops, baking the stones of the city. You leave the cool, shadowed sanctity of the basilica and step back into the chaotic stream of the Roman street. The transition is jarring. The quiet murmur of the law courts is instantly replaced by the roar of commerce. You follow the shopkeeper and his new bondservant as they navigate the crowd. The walk is different now. There is no procession of guards, no torchlight. It is simply two men walking, bound together by an invisible chain of debt and obligation. They thread their way back towards the Subura. The path leads away from the wide avenues and into the narrow, winding alleys where the buildings block out the sky. The air grows heavier here, thick with the trapped heat of the day and the smells of thousands of lives packed into close quarters. You watch the thief's feet dragging slightly on the paving stones. The adrenaline of the theft and the fear of the trial have evaporated, leaving only a hollow exhaustion. They arrive at the shopkeeper's establishment. It is a pastrinum, a bakery and flour mill combined. The front is a counter opening onto the street, where loaves are sold, but the punishment will not happen here in the public eye. They move through the shop, past the racks of cooling bread, and into the back room. The atmosphere changes instantly. The air here is white and hazy, filled with a fine suspension of flour dust that catches the light from the small windows. It coats the walls, the floor, and the eyelashes of the workers in a ghostly layer of pale powder. It is hot, a dry, stifling heat, radiating from the large brick ovens built into the rear wall. The fire is fed constantly, and the heat creates a shimmering distortion in the air. In the center of the room stand the great millstones. They are massive hourglass-shaped structures carved from porous gray lava rock, chosen for its rough surface that grinds grain without polishing it. Usually, these heavy stones are turned by donkeys, blindfolded and plodding in endless circles. But today, one of the mills is empty. This is where the debt will be paid. You watch as the shopkeeper points to the wooden beam extending from the side of the upper stone. There is no need for whips or shouting. The weight of the law is enough. The thief steps forward. He places his hands on the polished wood of the beam. It is slick with the sweat and oil of previous laborers. He leans his weight against it. The stone resists. It is a dead, immovable weight, sitting heavy on the lower cone. He pushes harder, digging his sandals into the flour-dusted floor for traction. Slowly, with a grinding vibration that you can feel through the soles of your feet, the stone begins to turn. It is a slow, agonizing rotation. Grain is poured into the hopper at the top, and as the stone turns, it is crushed between the rough surfaces, trickling out as flour into the trough below. You settle into a corner of the room, out of the way of the workers, to observe this new reality. The punishment here is not pain in the acute sense, it is monotony. It is the reduction of a human being to a source of kinetic energy. The thief pushes. Step, push, step, push. The circle is small, perhaps only 10 feet in diameter. The view never changes. The wall, the oven, the sacks of grain, the wall again. The flour dust settles on him. Within an hour, he has lost his individual features. His hair is gray, his tunic is gray, his skin is pale. He looks like a statue brought to life and forced to toil. The sound of the mill is a constant, low drone, a vibration that permeates the room. It becomes the only reality. The outside world, with its blue sky and fresh air, feels miles away, separated by thick walls and the haze of grain. Time loses its meaning in the pastrinum. There is no way to mark the hours except by the piles of flour growing in the troughs. You watch the rhythmic movement of the man's shoulders. You see the sweat cutting channels through the dust on his back. His head hangs low. He is not thinking about the bread he tried to steal. He is not thinking about the magistrate. He is likely not thinking at all. He has entered a trance state of labor, where the mind shuts down to protect itself from the boredom and the fatigue. The shopkeeper checks on him occasionally. He does not offer water often. The debt must be worked off, and time spent drinking is time the stone is not turning. It is a transactional relationship. The thief stole value, and now he must create value to replace it. The equation is cold and balanced. The heat from the ovens fluctuates as new wood is thrown in, sending waves of warmth across the room. The smell is overwhelming. The raw, earthy scent of ground wheat mixing with the sweet, yeasty aroma of baking dough and the sharp tang of human sweat. It is a sensory overload that eventually numbs the senses. You watch the shadows in the room shift as the sun moves across the sky outside. The beam of light from the high window travels across the floor, crossing the path of the walking man. He steps through the light, then back into the shadow, then into the light again. It is a pendulum swinging, marking the slow erosion of his debt. Other slaves in the room move with practiced efficiency. They carry heavy sacks of grain. They knead dough in large wooden troughs. They slide loaves into the ovens with long wooden paddles called peels. They do not speak to the newcomer. He is a temporary disruption, a transient element in their permanent world of work. They glance at him with a mixture of pity and indifference. They know the weight of the stone. As the afternoon wears on, the pace slows. The thief stumbles. His legs are trembling. The friction of the wooden beam against his chest has likely rubbed the skin raw. But he cannot stop. To stop is to invite the anger of the master and potentially to extend the sentence. So he finds a reserve of strength, a deep primal endurance. He leans his weight forward, using gravity more than muscle, and keeps the stone moving. You observe the absolute stillness of the scene despite the movement. It is a tableau of penance. The punishment fits the crime in the Roman mind. He sought to take the product of labor without working. Now he must provide the labor without the reward. It is poetic in a harsh, industrial way. The wheel turns, the grain is crushed, the debt is ground down, grain by grain, step by step, in the dusty, hot silence of the bakery. The light in the pastrinum begins to fail. The rectangle of sunshine that had been tracking across the flour-dusted floor stretches, thins, and finally dissolves into the gray gloom of twilight. The heat from the ovens, once a roaring, aggressive force, has settled into a thick, steady warmth that wraps around the room like a heavy wool blanket. The day's production is winding down. The frantic energy of the morning and afternoon has burned itself out, leaving behind a stillness that feels dense and exhausted. The shopkeeper, or perhaps the foreman of the bakery, gives a signal. It is a small gesture, a wave of a hand, but it breaks the spell of the millstone. The thief stops. The heavy lava rock rumbles to a halt, its momentum dying slowly. The silence that rushes back into the room is sudden and disorienting. For hours, the world has been defined by the grinding vibration of stone on stone. Now, the absence of that sound rings in the ears, a phantom noise that refuses to fade immediately. You watch as the man steps back from the wooden beam. He does not step away cleanly. His legs are trembling, vibrating with the memory of the effort. He stumbles slightly, his equilibrium shattered by hours of walking in a tight, endless circle. The room seems to spin around him, the walls tilting and swaying in his vision. He reaches out a hand to steady himself against the rough brick of the wall, leaving a smear of sweat and flour on the surface. He sinks down to the floor right there, at the base of the machine that has consumed his day. There is no energy left for dignity. He sits in the dust, his chest heaving, his breath coming in ragged, shallow gasps. The flour paste that coats his skin is cracking as it dries, mapping the contours of his muscles in white lines. You can see the raw, red skin on his chest and shoulders, where the wooden beam pressed against him, a physical receipt of his debt payment. The other workers in the bakery begin their evening rituals. They scrape down the tables, sweep the floor, and stack the last of the loaves. They move around the seated man as if he were an object, a sack of grain left in the aisle. He has become invisible to them, or perhaps too visible. In Rome, misfortune is often seen as contagious. To be a criminal, to be in debt bondage, is to be touched by bad luck. It is a stain, an infamia that clings tighter than the flour dust. A bowl is placed on the floor near him. It is not a meal served with care. It is sustenance provided to protect an asset. Inside is a simple pulse, a porridge made from the bran and husks left over from the milling process, perhaps flavored with a bit of salt or old oil. It is the fuel of the lowest rung of society. The man eats with his hands, his movements slow and mechanical. The food is dry and gritty, but he consumes it with a desperate, singular focus. It is the first time today his body has received anything in return for its output. As night fully descends, the bakery transforms. The windows, which were bright squares of light, become dark voids. The only illumination comes from the glowing embers deep inside the ovens, casting a dull orange-red light that barely reaches the corners of the room. The shadows stretch out, distorted and long. The towering millstones look like ancient monuments in a graveyard, silent and imposing in the gloom. There is no cell for him to return to, no separate quarters. His prison is the place of his labor. He curls up on a pile of empty grain sacks in the corner. The hemp fabric is rough and smells of burlap and dust, but it is softer than the stone floor. He pulls his knees to his chest, trying to conserve warmth as the ovens slowly cool, and the temperature in the room begins to drop. You sit nearby, in the shadows, observing this quiet moment of collapse. The physical punishment is over for the day, but the psychological weight settles in now. This is the time when the reality of his status truly lands. He is no longer a citizen walking the streets, no longer a man with agency. He is a nexus, a bond servant. He has lost the most precious thing a Roman possesses, his libertas, his liberty. He is bound to this room, to this stone, to this master, until the ledger is balanced. And in the complex, often unfair math of the Roman economy, that balance might take a lifetime to achieve. The sounds of the city outside drift through the thick walls, muffled and distant. You hear the faint sound of laughter from a passing group, the rattle of a cart, the bark of a dog. These are the sounds of the free world, a world that is now separated from him by a chasm of law and shame. He listens to them, his eyes open, staring into the dark. There is a profound loneliness here. It is not just the solitude of an empty room. It is the solitude of social death. He has stepped out of the circle of the community and into the shadow. The embers in the oven pop and shift, the sound sharp in the quiet room. The heat radiating from the bricks begins to fade, replaced by the creeping chill of the Roman night. The thief closes his eyes. His body twitches as his muscles spasm, releasing the tension of the day. He drifts into a sleep that is not restful, but heavy and black, a temporary escape from the wheel that waits for him at dawn. You watch him sleep. He looks smaller now, stripped of the defiance that might have led him to steal in the first place. He is just a shape in the darkness, covered in dust. The grandeur of the law, the speeches of the forum, the stern look of the magistrate, it all boils down to this: a man sleeping on sacks in a dusty room, owing his breath and his sweat to another. The system has worked. Order has been restored. But in the quiet of the bakery, the human cost of that order is laid bare, silent and dusty and sad. The days blur into a seamless ribbon of time, marked only by the rising and setting of the sun and the steady accumulation of flour in the wooden troughs. The initial agony of the labor has dulled into a callus, both on the skin and on the mind. The body has adapted to the rhythm of the wheel. The muscles in the legs and back have hardened, learning to conserve energy, moving with an economy of motion that borders on the hypnotic. The theft, the trial, the shame, they have all receded into the distance, replaced by the simple, binary reality of the millstone. Push and step, push and step. But in Roman law, a debt is a finite thing. It is a number in a ledger, and numbers can be subtracted until they reach zero. The morning comes when the shopkeeper does not point to the beam. Instead, he stands by the counter, a wax tablet in his hand. The air in the bakery is filled with the same white dust, the same heat, but the atmosphere has shifted. The calculation is complete. The value of the stolen silver, plus the penalty, has been extracted in sweat and torque. The shopkeeper nods. It is not a gesture of forgiveness or friendship. It is a transaction closing. The bond of the nexus is dissolved. The invisible chain that tied the thief to the stone is broken. There is no ceremony, no handshake, simply a gesture towards the door. The man stands there for a moment, his body still leaning slightly into a phantom weight that is no longer there. He straightens up, his spine cracking audibly in the quiet room. He brushes the flour from his tunic, a futile gesture, but a symbolic one. He is reclaiming his personhood. You follow him as he steps out of the pistrinum. The threshold is a line between two worlds. He crosses it and steps back into the street. The sensory shock is immediate. The air outside is moving, carrying the scent of rain on dry stone and the complex perfume of the city. Garbage, incense, cooking fires. The light is unfiltered, no longer hazy with grain dust. He blinks, his eyes adjusting to the depth and clarity of the world beyond the bakery walls. He begins the walk back to his own life. The walk is slow. He is not running away. He is simply returning. He moves through the crowds of the Subura, but he moves differently now. Before, he was a predator in the shadows, looking for an opportunity. Now, he is a ghost, returning to the living. He keeps his head down, not out of shame, but out of a deep, weary introspection. The city flows around him, indifferent. Rome does not care that he has paid his debt. Rome only cares that the order is maintained. He reaches his own tenement, a towering, rickety insula that leans precariously over the narrow alley. He climbs the wooden stairs. They creak under his weight, a familiar sound that he hasn't heard in weeks. Up and up, past the smells of other families' dinners, past the arguments and the laughter of neighbors. He reaches his room on the top floor, directly under the tiles of the roof. He pushes the door open. The room is small, dusty, and hot. It has been empty. The air inside is stale, preserving the silence of his absence, but it is his. He steps inside and closes the door. The latch clicks into place. That small sound is the loudest thing he has heard all day. It is the sound of privacy. It is the sound of libertas. He is behind his own door, in his own space, beholden to no man. He moves to the window, a small square cut into the wall. He looks out over the rooftops of the city. The sun is setting, painting the sky in bruises of purple and gold. In the distance, he can see the great dome of the Pantheon and the temples on the Capitoline Hill. They stand immutable and grand, watching over the millions of small lives that churn beneath them. He rests his hands on the sill. His palms are rough, thickened by the wood of the mill beam. He looks at them. They are the hands of a worker now, not a thief. The punishment has rewritten the story of his body. He turns back to the room. There is a small jug of water in the corner. He drinks. The water is warm, but it tastes sweet. He washes his face, scrubbing away the last of the bakery's gray dust. He watches the white water run off his skin, carrying the memory of the millstone away with it. He is reclaiming his skin. He sits on his pallet. The straw mattress is thin, but compared to the grain sacks on the bakery floor, it feels like a cloud. He lies back. The tension that has held his body together for weeks begins to unravel. It starts in the feet, moving up the legs, releasing the tightness in the lower back, unknotting the shoulders. He sinks into the bed. The sounds of the city drift up to his high window. They are soft now, muffled by the height and the coming night. The rumble of the carts has started again, that eternal bass note of Rome. But tonight, it does not signify a threat. It is just the city breathing. He closes his eyes. The darkness behind his eyelids is no longer filled with the spinning stone. It is just dark, quiet, velvet dark. The anxiety of the debt is gone. The fear of the guard is gone. The weight of the law has been lifted. He is light. His breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the wind outside. The mind, finally free of the monotony of the count, begins to drift. It wanders away from the subura, away from the hard stones of the street. It floats into a space of pure rest. There are no magistrates here. There are no victims. There is only the peace of the finished task. The night deepens. The stars come out, watching over the sleeping city. The thief sleeps. The judge sleeps. The shopkeeper sleeps. In the end, the law governs the waking world, but sleep governs them all. It is the great equalizer. And in this silence, in this small room above the teeming streets, the balance is finally, truly restored. You let go of the story. You let go of the history. You simply drift, carried on the same tide of sleep, into the quiet, dreamless dark, back in time to sit in the heavy silence of a Roman dungeon and witness the rare, fragile moment when the heavy hand of the law decides to let go. The concept of forgiveness in a world built on iron and stone often feels like a phantom, a ghost story whispered in the dark to keep madness at bay. You are currently existing in the Tullianum, or perhaps a provincial carcer, a place designed not for rehabilitation, but for containment and forgotten time. The air here is different from the air in the world above. It is heavy, stagnant, and carries the metallic taste of rusted iron and the damp, earthy scent of ancient soil. You are deep underground, where the seasons do not change, and the passage of day into night is marked only by the shifting intensity of the gray light filtering through a grate high in the ceiling. You are sitting on a stone bench that has been polished smooth by the misery of thousands who came before you. The stone is cold, a chill that seeps through your tunic and settles into your bones, becoming a permanent part of your physiology. Around your ankles, the heavy iron of the vincula, the chains, provides a constant, grounding weight. You have stopped fighting them long ago. You have learned to move with them, to walk with a shuffled gait that keeps the metal from biting into your skin. They are no longer foreign objects. They are extensions of your own body, heavy reminders of the power of the state. In this subterranean world, silence is the dominant currency. It is not a peaceful silence, but a thick, pressurized quiet. It is broken only by the occasional cough of a fellow prisoner, the rustle of straw, or the distant, muffled thud of a guard's boots on the floor above. But lately, there has been a different sound, a ripple in the stagnant atmosphere, a rumor. It starts as a whisper passed from cell to cell, carried through the cracks in the masonry and the gaps in the bars. Indulgentia. The word itself feels strange on the tongue, too soft for a place made of hard edges. It means leniency. It means pardon. The rumor says that the emperor has returned to Rome. A great triumph is being celebrated. Perhaps a war has been won on the Danube, or perhaps it is the anniversary of his accession to the purple. In the world above, the city is exploding with color and noise. There are processions winding through the forum, oxen are being sacrificed at the temple of Jupiter, and wine is flowing freely in the streets. But down here, the celebration manifests differently. It manifests as a fragile, terrifying hope. Roman law is known for its severity, for its rigid adherence to rules, but it is also a system that recognizes the power of mercy as a political tool. The emperor is the paterfamilias of the empire, the father of the people, and on days of great joy, a father forgives his wayward children. This is the abolitio, the wiping away of the charge, the unmaking of the crime. You wait. The waiting in a prison is usually a passive act, a simple endurance of time. But today, the waiting is active. It is an electric tension that tightens the muscles in your neck and makes your heart beat a little faster against your ribs. Every sound from the stairwell is analyzed. Is that the heavy tread of the jailer with the evening meal? Or is it the lighter, quicker step of a messenger? You look at the men around you. In the dim light, their faces are masks of guarded anticipation. No one wants to speak of it aloud for fear of jinxing the possibility. To hope in a place like this is dangerous. It opens a door in the mind that, if slammed shut again, can break a man completely. So you sit in shared silence, tracing the patterns of mold on the wall, counting the drips of condensation that fall from the ceiling, trying to keep your breathing steady. Hours pass. The light in the grate begins to fade, turning from a dusty gray to a deep, bruised purple. The despair begins to creep back in. Perhaps the rumor was just that, a lie born of desperation. Perhaps the triumph is over, the emperor has retired to his palace, and the dungeons have been forgotten. It would not be the first time. You close your eyes, preparing to surrender to another night of cold stone and heavy iron. And then, the sound comes. It is the groan of the great outer door, the one that separates the inner prison from the guard rooms. It is a heavy metal sound that reverberates through the stone floor. Then, voices. Not the usual grunts of the guards, but the sharp, clear Latin of an educated man, a scribe, an official. You open your eyes, you stand up, the chains rattling at your feet. All around you, others are doing the same. It is a slow, clinking chorus of metal. You move towards the bars of your cell. The corridor outside is usually dark, lit only by a single sputtering torch. But now the light grows brighter. A procession is coming. First comes the jailer, carrying a large ring of keys. He looks different tonight. He is standing straighter, his usual brutality tempered by the presence of his superiors. Behind him walks a man in a clean white toga. In this place of filth and gray rags, the whiteness of the fabric is shocking. It seems to glow with its own inner light. He holds a scroll in his hand. They stop at the first cell. The official unrolls the scroll. The parchment crinkles loudly in the silence. He clears his throat. The sound echoes off the vaulted ceiling. He begins to read. It is a preamble, a formal declaration of the Emperor's divine benevolence, a statement that on this auspicious day, the shadow of the law shall be lifted from certain souls. He calls a name. There is a gasp from the cell next to yours. A man, a debtor who has been rotting here for 6 months, collapses to his knees. He is weeping. It is a raw, ugly sound of relief. The jailer steps forward, fits a key into the lock, and turns it. The mechanism clicks. A sharp, mechanical sound of liberation. The door swings open. The debtor stumbles out, his hands shaking. He tries to embrace the official's knees, but is gently pushed back. This is a legal procedure, not a reunion. The procession moves on. They are walking down the corridor, coming closer to you. You grip the cold iron bars of your cell door. Your knuckles are white. You can feel the pulse in your fingertips against the metal. The official stops in front of your cell. He looks down at the scroll, then up at you. His eyes are indifferent. To him, you are a name on a list, a bureaucratic task to be completed before he can return to the fresh air and the feast. He looks back at the scroll. His finger traces a line of text. You stop breathing. The world narrows down to the movement of that finger. It is the arbiter of your fate. If it passes over you, you remain in the dark. If it stops, you are reborn. He speaks. He recites your name. The air leaves your lungs in a rush. It is not a shout of joy. It is a physical collapse of tension. Your knees feel weak. You lean against the bars to keep from falling. The jailer approaches. You hear the jingle of the keys. He selects one, a large iron key that looks like all the others. He inserts it into the lock. You watch the metal turn. You hear the tumblers shift. It is the loudest sound you have ever heard. The door opens. For a moment, you do not move. The boundary that has defined your existence for so long is gone. The open space in front of you feels dangerous, vast. The jailer gestures impatiently. You step forward. Your foot crosses the threshold. You are standing in the corridor. You are on the other side of the bars. But you are not free yet. The chains are still on your ankles. You are still deep underground. You are still surrounded by the smell of the prison. But the status of your soul has changed. You are no longer a damnatus, a condemned man. You are a recipient of indulgentia. The official moves on to the next cell. You stand there, waiting with the other chosen ones. You look at the men who were not called. They are gripping the bars of their cells, their faces pressed against the iron. There is envy in their eyes, yes. but also a terrible, crushing resignation. They are the remnants, the ones left behind by the tide of mercy. You look away. You cannot bear to see the reflection of your own recent past in their faces. The reading of the list concludes. The scroll is rolled up. The official nods to the jailer. It is time to move. You are herded together, a small group of ragged, filthy men and women. You begin the walk towards the stairs. The ascent is slow. The chains make it difficult to climb, and your muscles are atrophied from lack of use. But there is an energy in the group now, a collective will to rise. You climb the stone steps one by one. The air begins to change. The stagnant heaviness of the dungeon gives way to a draft of cooler, fresher air. You can smell burning torches, pine resin, and faintly, very faintly, the smell of roasting meat from the city above. You reach the blacksmith station, located in the guardroom near the exit. This is the final barrier. The jailer motions for you to sit on a wooden stool. The blacksmith approaches. He carries a hammer and a chisel. He kneels at your feet. This is a delicate operation. The iron cuff is hammered tight around your ankle. To remove it requires force and precision. You feel the cold metal of the chisel against your skin, sliding between your flesh and the iron ring. The blacksmith raises the hammer. You flinch instinctively. He strikes. The sound of metal on metal rings out, sharp and piercing. A spark flies. He strikes again and again. The iron ring, weakened by the chisel, groans and snaps open. The weight falls away from your left ankle. Your leg floats upwards, feeling impossibly light, as if gravity has suddenly released its hold on you. He moves to the right ankle. Strike. Strike. Snap. The chains lie in a heap on the floor. You look at them. They look like the carcass of a dead snake. They are rusted, ugly things. You rub your ankles. The skin is raw, calloused, and stained with rust. But it is free. The sensation of lightness is disorienting. You stand up, and you almost lose your balance. You are so used to compensating for the extra weight that your body doesn't know how to move without it. The official is waiting by the heavy outer door. He hands you a small wooden tablet. It is your libellus, your certificate of discharge. It bears the seal of the magistrate and the date. It is your shield. It is the proof that you are not an escapee, but a pardoned citizen. You clutch it tightly. It is more valuable to you now than gold. The jailer unbars the final door. He pushes it open. The light that floods in is not the gray, filtered light of the grate. It is the brilliant, blinding gold of the Roman sun. It hits you like a physical blow. You squeeze your eyes shut, tears streaming down your face, as the brightness overwhelms your sensitive retinas. You raise your hand to shield your face. You step out. The transition is absolute. One moment, you were in the cool, silent, smelling dark. Now, you are enveloped in warmth. The heat of the sun presses against your skin, soaking into the cold dampness of your tunic. The noise of the city rushes at you, a cacophony of shouting vendors, rattling wheels, barking dogs, and the distant roar of the crowd at the circus. You are standing in the courtyard of the prison. The gates to the street are open. You take a breath. The air tastes of dust and life. It is sweet. It fills your lungs, expanding your chest in a way that feels painful and ecstatic all at once. You are out. The stone womb of the prison has birthed you back into the world. You are standing on the surface of the earth, under the vast, indifferent blue sky of Rome. The nightmare of the stone box is over. The complex, terrifying, beautiful reality of freedom has begun. The gate of the prison closes behind you. It is a dull, heavy thud that signifies the finality of your departure. You do not look back. There is a superstition among those who have dwelt in the dark places of the earth. Never look back at the mouth of the beast that held you, lest it decides to swallow you again. Instead, you keep your eyes fixed forward, squinting against the glare of the noon sun. You are standing on a busy street in the heart of Rome. The contrast is violent. Moments ago, your world was defined by damp stone, silence, and the smell of decay. Now, your senses are under assault. The air is thick with the dust of summer, swirling in golden clouds kicked up by the passing carts. It smells of roasting pork from a nearby vendor, of heating oil, of horse manure, of unwashed bodies, and of spices drifting from the open doors of merchants. It is an overwhelming, chaotic perfume that makes your head spin. You take your first step onto the basalt paving stones. Your legs feel light, strangely unanchored without the dragging weight of the iron chains. You stumble slightly, your equilibrium thrown off by the freedom of movement. A passerby, a man in a rough tunic carrying a basket of figs, swerves to avoid you. He wrinkles his nose. You realize then how you must appear to them. You are covered in the gray grime of the dungeon. Your hair is matted. Your tunic is little more than a rag. You smell of the underground. To the bustling citizens of Rome, you are a shadow, a specter of misfortune that has wandered into their bright day. But you do not care. Their judgment cannot touch you. You have the wooden tablet, the libellus, tucked securely against your chest. It is a shield that is stronger than bronze. You walk. You do not have a destination yet. The simple act of walking in a straight line, without hitting a wall after 3 paces, is a luxury that consumes your entire attention. You move through the crowds. The noise is a physical vibration. The shouting of the sausage sellers, the rhythmic clanging of a coppersmith's hammer, the arguments of wagon drivers fighting for space, it all washes over you. In the cell, you craved silence. Now you drink in the noise. It is the sound of life continuing, the sound of a world that did not stop while you were away. You find your way to a public fountain, a large stone basin fed by an aqueduct. The water gushes from the mouth of a sculpted lion, splashing into the pool below. It is clear, sparkling, and impossibly clean. You fall to your knees beside it. You do not care about dignity. You cup your hands and catch the falling water. It is freezing cold, shocking your system. You drink greedily, the water running down your chin and soaking the front of your tunic. It tastes of the mountains, of minerals and snow. It washes away the taste of stale prison gruel. You splash the water over your face, scrubbing at the layers of dirt and crust. You rub your eyes, your neck, your arms. The water turns gray as it hits your skin, carrying away the physical remnants of your captivity. You are washing away the prison. You cannot scrub away the memory, nor the scars on your ankles where the iron bit deep, but you can clean the surface. You stand up, dripping wet, water pooling around your bare feet. The sun hits your wet skin, and for the first time in months, you feel warm. Not the stifling, feverish heat of the cell, but the clean, radiating warmth of the star above. You continue your journey. You find yourself walking towards the Tiber River. The streets widen here. You see the warehouses, the granaries, the ships docked at the wharves. Men are unloading amphorae of oil from Spain, grain from Egypt, timber from Gaul. The sheer scale of the empire's commerce stretches out before you. You are a tiny speck in this vast machine, but today, you are a free speck. You watch a crane lift a heavy net of cargo. You watch the sailors shouting commands. You are simply an observer, witnessing the miracle of ordinary industry. Hunger begins to gnaw at you, a sharp pang that is different from the dull, constant ache of starvation you felt in the dungeon. This is the hunger of a living man. You have no coin, but on a day of triumph, on a day of imperial pardon, charity is part of the city's ritual. You approach a bakery distribution point. The baker, a burly man with flour on his arms, sees the look in your eye. He sees the mark of the chains on your ankles. He knows what you are. He does not say a word. He simply reaches into a basket and hands you a loaf of bread. It is a small, round loaf, still warm from the oven. You take it with trembling hands. You find a quiet spot on the steps of a closed temple to eat. You break the crust. The sound of the bread cracking is crisp and distinct. You put a piece in your mouth. The flavor is explosive. It tastes of wheat, of yeast, of salt, of fire. You chew slowly, savoring every crumb. It is the best meal you have ever eaten. It is the taste of survival. As you eat, you watch the people passing by. Soldiers in their red tunics, senators in their white togas, slaves in their simple clothes, mothers carrying babies. They are all rushing, all worried about appointments, debts, lovers, dinners. They carry the burden of their daily lives. You realize with a strange sense of clarity that you are lighter than them. You have lost everything, and in doing so, you have nothing left to lose. You have been stripped down to the core of your existence, and you are still here. There is a profound peace in that realization. The afternoon wears on. The shadows of the buildings begin to stretch across the street, lengthening and merging. The golden light of the afternoon softens into the amber glow of evening. The frantic energy of the city begins to settle. The shops close their shutters. The carts stop rumbling. The smell of evening fires begins to drift through the air, wood smoke and cooking garlic. You need a place to rest. You cannot go back to your old life, not yet. That life is gone, lost in the time you spent away. You are starting over. You walk towards the outskirts of the city, towards the gardens and the open spaces near the city walls. You find a spot beneath a large cypress tree. The ground is covered in dry needles, soft and fragrant. It is not a bed, but it is not stone. Above you, the branches sway gently in the evening breeze, whispering a quiet song. You sit down, leaning your back against the trunk of the tree. You stretch your legs out. For the first time, you look at your ankles closely. The skin is bruised, purple and yellow, and there are deep indentations where the iron rested. They will scar. You will carry these marks for the rest of your life. They are your history written on the body. But as you flex your feet, pointing your toes and rotating your ankles, there is no resistance. There is no clanking sound. There is only movement. The sun dips below the horizon. The sky turns a deep, velvety blue. The first stars begin to appear, pinpricks of white light in the vast dome of the heavens. You look up at them. You used to watch a single patch of sky through the grate in your cell, dreaming of this view. Now the entire universe is open above you. There are no bars crossing your vision. There is no ceiling weighing you down. You feel a wave of exhaustion wash over you. It is a clean, heavy tiredness. It is the fatigue of a body that has walked in the sun and breathed fresh air. You lie down on the bed of pine needles. The earth is warm beneath you. You pull your knees up, curling onto your side. You clutch the wooden tablet, your pardon, in one hand. The sounds of the city are distant now, a low hum that fades into the background. The crickets begin their nightly chorus in the grass around you. A night bird calls out. These are the sounds of freedom. You close your eyes. The darkness behind your eyelids is not the terrifying, suffocating blackness of the dungeon. It is a soft, resting dark. Your breathing slows. You inhale the scent of the pine and the cooling earth. You exhale the memory of the prison. With each breath, you are reclaiming a piece of your soul. You are no longer number 7 in the lower ward. You are a man. You are alive. You are free. The night wraps around you like a protective cloak. The anxiety of the past, the fear of the future, all of it dissolves in the reality of the present moment. You are safe here, under the tree. You drift. The boundary between waking and sleeping blurs. You float on the sensation of being unchained. You sleep. And for the first time in a very long time, your dreams are not of walls, but of open horizons and endless sunlit roads. If this journey through the duller side of history helped you unwind and maybe even drift off, please let me know. First, hit that like button if you enjoyed this historical lullaby. Second, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future installments of history too boring to keep you awake. Finally, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below about which historical topic you find so mundane. It deserves to be our next sleepy video. Your suggestions will shape our journey into the world's most delightfully dull past.